Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the You Are Made to Thrive podcast. Christina and I are here today with another great episode, kind of a little bit of a reflection, goal-oriented episode here. We're going to be talking about our words of the year. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of, I think, in more recent years become more of a popular thing to do. Start of the year, you pick your word, and what it means to you kind of sets the tone for your year, if you will. So today we're just going to kind of share our words that we've picked, why we picked them, and kind of the goals and things that we have envisioned for ourselves around those words. So Christina, why don't you start us off? What is your word of the year for 2023?
So my word of the year, also I just want to say, I like doing this better than just setting random goals. I think it's nice to kind of give that overview of like how you want your year to go. All that in mind. The word that I chose this year was content, is content. I think, thank you. Sorry, I was like gathering myself.
That was one of my choices for this year. But that's
wow. So yeah. Also, side note, we have not shared our words until this moment. So like, I don't know what Brittany's are. She didn't know mine. So it's kind of cool to like actually hear that. So I love that we had a word that was in common. I try to pick one because my brain will go 1,000 directions if I don't, but I know you usually pick a couple and have a couple in your mind. So I picked content. And this year, we talked a little bit about this last year, but one of the women I follow online, she does goals kind of based on the year. So what I mean by that is like last year, it was 22 goals because it was 2022, and this year it's like 23 for 23. So I'm actually still working on my list, only up to like 21. But when I thought at the top of my list, I put, my word, I put content, and a lot of my goals for the year are really about trying to be present in the moment with what we have, trying to have less, not necessarily have less, but like use less, to be less wasteful, to kind of go through things that we have and like pay attention to what we need versus what we want. And just kind of do some things like maybe saving more money and like spending a little bit less because we don't need some of the things that we think we do. So just overall, just like being more conscious, I think, about how we're living and spending money and spending our time and our space, is kind of the overall theme for me. I think for me, one of the biggest things about my personality that if you don't know me well, if you know me well, it won't surprise you. But if you don't, I am a person that just kind of moves forward. I don't, and that's not entirely true. I'm a person that thinks forward. Like I'm constantly thinking, what is the next thing, right? Like, well, I've started my graduate degree now. So like now I gotta start thinking about jobs. Like it's not, I'm not really good at staying where I am and like being in that time and being in that moment. I am just like, what's the next thing that I'm working towards? And that's great in a lot of ways. It keeps me really motivated. And it's also really draining in so many other ways because I'm not really just good at doing the thing in front of me, like not worrying about what the next 5 steps are. So I'm really hoping that this year I can start being a little bit better about that, and like hoping that this word of the year and some of the goals that have come out of that being my word of the year will help me to just stay a little more grounded and a little more where I am and focusing on what I have and what I can use and what's already here, before jumping to the next thing. So that's kind of why I picked it, I guess.
That. So yeah. Real quick, I'm gonna put you on the spot again. What were some of your words from like last year and the year before that, or if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what 22's was. Gosh, I don't know if I know. I think one of the years I think was forward. It was just like getting myself to move forward through things. And I think 22 might have been patience or something along those lines of like kind of just being better at slowing down still. I mean, obviously this is like a thing I've been working on for a long time. I actually don't really remember. I wish I remembered more clearly. I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways, this is the first year where I feel like my word actually really fits. It's not that it hasn't in the past. I just feel like it really resonates with where I am now better than the past years. I don't know. And like when I look at my notes, because I keep my little, I keep my goals in a note on my phone. I'm not really great about like going and checking them off when I do them. It's kind of, they're really, a lot of them are just like building up long-term habits, you know? Like the first one's like budgeting every day, like checking on the budget every day. Like I'm not going to give myself 365 check marks, you know, but like getting in the habit and the routine of it. The other thing I think for me was content with like being where I am, being present. I think that's the other thing is like, I'm really bad about like, oh, I'm cooking dinner and I have the recipe on my phone, which is great, super convenient, really helpful. But then I'm also like, oh, I'm stirring the pasta and I'm checking Instagram, or I'm sending a text message, or like checking my email. And so I think just also like being more mindful of like what I'm consuming. Cause I even have like on here, which I know I haven't been doing great about, like working on leaving my phone in our room. Like once everybody's home and in the house, like nobody really needs me that badly. Like my mom can call me and it'll come through on my Apple Watch if I really need to answer her that badly. You know what I mean? I'm not really good at that. And right now that hasn't really been the case, but Ryan started driving activity buses again. Ryan has his CDL in case anybody did not know that. So he's been out late a lot of nights with the games and the buses he's driving. So it's been harder for me to do some of those things because I am like that anxious person. It's like, oh God, if he like gets in an accident, like I need to know right away. I have an Apple Watch, like it would buzz from my room to the kitchen, but I just like, I get really paranoid when he's not home. So like I know it does for him. Like we don't sleep with our phones like plugged in by our beds or anything anymore. But like on the nights that I have shows and I'm driving home late, like he moves his charger to the like bedside so that it's right there if something was to happen. So all of these come with caveats. But I think, you know, it's just some of that stuff and like using up supplies that we have. Like I switched to Blue Land for a lot of our cleaning supplies. We moved in this house because we couldn't use certain kind of chemicals on our like countertops, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, somebody recommended Blue Land and I bought, because I'm dumb, like put myself on a subscription. And so I wound up with like, not 1,000, but it feels like 1,000 of like the little packets and like tablets. Cause you like put the tablet in and like run water over it, becomes like a foam. And that's like how the product works, but it's like all natural stuff. And I didn't realize like sign myself up for a subscription. So like I got like 2 shipments before I had even like used up my first like bottle of it. Plus the first, like, I don't know, almost all of last year we had Jessica come clean the house and she was using her own cleaning solutions and stuff. So like they didn't get used. So I have like a jar full of all of these things. And I'm like, do not buy anymore until these are gone. Like, you know, you gotta stop.
Real
so
quick,
like,
what was the company?
Like Blue Land.
Okay.
I really like them. And stuff works really well. Like I don't like the mirrors don't streak and it smells good and it's like safe. Like I don't worry about like if the dog licks something or if like I touch it with my bare hands. Like I don't know. Anyway, so like that's something I have. So yeah, so that's just like some of my goals. I think is just using more of the stuff we have, spending more time outdoors, stuff like that. Like things like sounds so simple, but removing Zillow notifications off my phone, you know, like taking the emails that I was getting daily with houses in the Outer Banks, like turning them off, because the reality is we're not moving right now. We're not moving in the next year, even probably not even the next 5 years. And so just being honest with myself about that, like it's cool to look at, it's fun, but it also like makes me less content with where we are and what we're doing here. And so it's like, it sounds silly, but it's like that temptation, right? Like, so it sounds like such a simple thing and it's February and I've still only like dealt with half of those because I do like seeing them and it makes me happy, but like, I know it's not helping with me being content with where we are because this is the choice that we've made right now. And this is where we need to be right now. And there's other things like I can't move because of school right now, tuition and payments. There's all sorts of things that like go into that, right? Not like beyond just being able to afford it, you know? But as a side tip, as somebody, we talked about budgeting on the blog and all that, and I promise I won't talk this whole episode, but one of the things that we kind of touched on this in the budgeting episode, actually on why now when you need a budget, one of the things that the company recommends is something they call a wish farm, and you can call whatever you want. Essentially the idea is that you're putting lines in your budget for things that you want to do or want to get or want to repair, or want to replace, but you know it's not something you're going to be able to do right now, maybe not even 6 months from now, but they're just things that you need to think about that cost money. And then as you have time, you can fill them in, you can prioritize them, you can maybe move one into your budget line as the year allows, whatever, however you want to look at it. To me, that's however you want to do it is fine. But I like the idea. And over the last 2 weeks, I've actually added a couple wish farm budget lines. And it felt silly at first. I was like, why am I putting this in? Like, this is like 4 years away, like that we're talking about doing this. Like we're talking about trying to take a trip for our 10-year wedding anniversary, like to a sandals resort. So like a not cheap trip, right? But I'm also gonna need to save up money for it. And it's something we could start saving now. You know, it's a 2 years away. But one of the things I put on there was moving, and like realistically looking at like the number that I put in there, like of course we're not gonna do it in the like anytime soon. But like knowing that we can set aside a couple bucks when we have time to like fund things in the future, it's like enough of that, like, oh, someday I'll do this thing, but I don't have to look at it every single day in a way. Cause like I hide those items because I'm not gonna spend a lot of time filling them unless we come into extra money, right? Like they're just not priorities right now. So it's kind of like that taste of like, oh, it's still in the back of my brain, but like I don't have to see it every day coming in my inbox. And it just allows me to like someday down the line I'll scratch that itch and that's fine. But now I can still be content doing other things that we're doing. So just a side little thing. Like if it's something like that, you know, that like is holding you up or like helps, you know, not helps, but like causes a little more discontent in your life, then like find ways to like hack yourself around it, right? Like, so anyway, that's where like a lot of this came from, was like being more content with where we are in life. Not to say I'm not now, but just being better about it, you know, being more thoughtful about how we're consuming and what we're consuming and using what we have and we've already purchased and spent money on. And just being really more cognizant of all that. So that's where my word came from, and kind of why I chose it. And maybe in the blog I'll share some more of my goals that goes with this podcast. I can drop some more goals in there because now I'm rambling, but that's kind of where it came from. So anyway, enough about me and my year. Brittany, what are your words or word for 2023?
So I struggled a lot to come up with a word that I wanted to focus on. And I don't know why. I've never had really a problem coming up with, like, in the years past, it's been instant. Like I knew that this is what I wanted to focus on and this is what I wanted my word to be. This year, I don't know why, it was a bit more of a struggle. But I settled on intentional. My word, I want to be intentional in all things. It's becoming very, like, obviously as a mom, like, you know, like time is precious and, you know, all the things, you won't get this moment back. You hear all that stuff constantly. And you know, it's true, but I think that this past couple months, it's really been hitting me hard how big my kids are getting. And, you know, certain stages of life are just over. And, you know, I can't have any more kids, like physically, I cannot have any more. So just knowing, I think that these certain stages have ended. And I've kind of done a lot of grieving and reflecting on certain things. And I think that was kind of where it stemmed from, is like, I just wanted my time to be intentional, because a lot of time I don't feel like it is. It's more of things are done out of necessity. You know, for instance, like homeschooling, I started homeschooling because I wanted to be intentional about their education, about the time I spent with them and the things that I, you know, that were being poured into their minds and all of that. But in reality, the day-to-day, you know, life, I'm not as intentional. It's more of like a checklist that I just am trying to get through. I did math, we did language arts, okay, check it off. And I'm not really cultivating that intentional space that I wanted. So that's kind of where it stemmed from, but it's kind of going into all things. I want to be intentional in my marriage and in my friendships, in the house, just everything. I want to be intentional with my time, period. Like I said, it's just becoming, I guess, more heavy on my heart, how, not just how precious, but how quickly it's all going by. And I really need to, it's just been on my heart to be more intentional with the time that I'm given with everyone in my life and every blessing that I have. So that's kind of my why I picked it. My goals around this word, aside from just obviously being intentional, is, so my husband and I, we actually sat down and we kind of planned some fun activities, like things we want to go and do with the kids. Cause like we're, over the past, I'd say 2 years, our focus has really been on making memories and not more things. Especially when it comes to like the kids and their stuff, because kids have a lot of things. Just clutters up space. And so we really are just trying to focus and hone in on making memories. What can we do that is going to create this experience and this memory for us all that is going to outlast any stuff that we could possibly buy them. So we actually, I think it was last night or the night before, made a list of all the things that we want to do in the next couple months and over the next year. We have some really fun things that we talked about, because the kids, you know, I guess the benefit of them getting a little older is there are a lot more things that we can kind of go and do. We're talking about going snow tubing at a local place, something that I last year would have been like, no, they're like, Jeffrey's way too young, but now he would love it. Like his thrill seeker vibe would love it. So yeah, just like fun stuff like that we are kind of plan and be more intentional just with our time with the kids, because he's also in conversations like he's feeling the same thing, like going by quickly, and if we're not intentional with it, I think we'll look back with a little bit of regret. So
yeah, no, and I think that's underlying a lot of like my choices too. Obviously my son is younger than Savannah and Jeffrey are, but even still it goes fast, and he's in school all day, so it's like I don't see him for much time. And it's been an interesting season the last year or so, because we talked about this before, but last year I did a lot of stuff that was me heavy. You know, I started a graduate program, I played a lot of shows, I was gone a lot of evenings, and it was wonderful and it was beautiful and I loved every minute of it. But it also, there's a trade-off, right? Like I wasn't home as much, I didn't see David and Ryan as much, and this year I don't think I'm gonna have quite an abundance of opportunities for things that are gonna take away from the house, which is okay. You know, these things come in waves and that's fine. So I think it's kind of, part of me is like, well, this is a chance to, you know, slow down and be a little more present and do all those things. You know, it was even like last night, you know, Ryan was gone, driving the bus, so he was gone late. He was gone pretty late. It was a really long day for him. But that meant, you know, I had David from in the mornings, dropped him off at school, picked him up, had him, you know, we did dinner, we did everything together, and it was great. And we definitely did have some good time. But then I was also like, you know, sometimes when you get that way, it's just easy to be like, yeah, we'll just watch a TV show before bed, or like things that are a little bit less intentional or like less focus. And it kind of hit me last night that, I mean, I'm tired too. I'm allowed to be tired. I'm allowed to slow down. I'm allowed to do those things. We're allowed to not have a 5-course meal for dinner, you know, which is the two of us. It can be pretty easy. And sometimes it's okay. Like sometimes I have to wash the dishes and like clean up the kitchen and he's not cooperating. So like, sure, I can let him watch a show for 15 minutes and even that, but it's like, I even look at like bath times and stuff, and I'm less engaged. I mean, he's bigger. He's doesn't really need me except to like help get his hair clean, you know, because he's still learning how to do that. But he can sit there and play, and I can fold laundry at the counter, or, you know, walk to my bedroom, walk in my closet for a second. No, he's not going to drown. Like he's right there next to me, you know. Whereas I didn't have to do him as a baby. And it's like, even that I'm starting to realize like that used to be a connection time, right? Like that used to be a point when we, either one of us sat down and like we're playing with him and like doing those things. And like, we're not really doing that. Which he's fine. He's playing by himself. He's totally occupied. Like he's allowed to have that time. We can have time to clean. Like the other night I cleaned the bathroom counter because it really needed to be cleaned, and it was fine. It was a good use of time, all those things. But I can just tell like we're all tired by the end of the day. We're a little bit less intentional. And I think sometimes I struggle with that, you know, like they'll come home from school and they'll both like hang out, and that's what they do, like to watch TV for a little bit, and then I'm starting dinner and it's like I'm kind of in my own world, they're kind of in there. It's like I just want to kind of bridge that gap a little bit more. And that's why I think things like putting my phone down, like, you know, putting in a room where I'm not even like tempted to look at it. Even if that means I have to figure out how to connect the stupid app from my phone to my iPad where I can't message people or whatever. Like, you know, I've taken social media, I've taken Facebook off my phone. I leave Instagram on for business purposes, but I put a limit on, like, I'm just trying to be more mindful of like where my time and my energy is being spent. Like you said, just being more intentional. And, you know, and to me that's being content, like being content with where we are, being content with being here, with being content with making the dinner that I picked out, whatever. And like, I think sometimes too, I get frustrated in those moments, like frustrated by things I'm like making dinner or whatever, because I'm trying to like look at my phone or look at my email or answer something. And it's like, I don't need to be doing that now. You know, like my workday ended, like it's time to put it down, like move on. And so I think that's a big part of why like several of my goals center back around like just having that time with people, and being more content, more mindful, really, like you said, more intentional, content, intentional. I think should have been my words, but
yes, that was something I did. I think I did it actually before our Disney trip. I deleted Facebook because I knew like that was kind of like the start of, even though I hadn't chosen my word yet, like that was kind of the start of my like intentional time, like we're taking this trip, like I'm going to be intentional, like like devote my time to them, and no distractions. And so I haven't had it on my phone. And I wasn't huge on it anyway, but I did, you know, have phases where I got sucked in and not a good use of time.
Yes.
So definitely things like removing social media has been huge. And it has also given me more space to do other things like read, which is also part of my intentional for myself. Like I want to be intentional about like growing and, feeding my thoughts with good things and and not just mindless stuff that's scrolling.
Yeah.
And another like I guess goal we set as far as like being intentional with the kids is we are trying to have at least we've always had a family movie night on Fridays unless something happened, something came up or whatever. But we're trying to do at least one family game night in addition to that because like you were saying, it's hard in the evenings when you've had a day of just go 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 or like things you're doing and like whether it's like physical moving or not, like it's still like mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
And I was finding like we have a game closet and I'm like before Christmas my mom was asking me what games she could get the kids and I'm like looking and I'm like we have so many games that I bought them last year that we haven't even opened. I mean we love games but it was just like in the day to day it's like 7 p.m. and I'm like I don't feel like playing cards right now.
Yeah.
Like can we just watch a Bluey and go to bed? And or with sports we weren't getting home sometimes till like 8:30.
Yeah.
And it was just shower go to bed. And so because we're kind of in this like little bit of slower pace of life right now, it allows for that. And so that was kind of one of our goals. My husband and I, we set like one night a week. We're going to try and do like a family game night and try and choose a new game we haven't played, learn something new, which is frustrating. And sometimes even in those moments, it's easier. I'm like, can we just play Uno? We all know how to play Uno. I really don't feel like learning something new right now. But yeah, so just being intentional with that. And I'm excited just because looking back at my past years and the words that I've chosen, like even when it didn't feel like I was making progress towards the goals I had set around that word, when I look back on those years, I can see the growth. I can see like that year, like I did, like even if it didn't feel like it in the moment, I did that vibe of that year. That word reflected. So I'm excited for I guess what's going to come this year. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a neat year for both of us. I don't know. It's just been a weird couple of years. I mean, for everybody. There's just been a lot of transitions, I feel like. And I even remember, I think for me, I always feel like, oh, I want to just be better at like slowing down and like being more present. I'm never really good at it and I never seem to nail it. And so I really hope that this is a year that I can focus on that I can take advantage of the time that I have. I mean, and obviously all these things that like have taken me away from the house, like they're choices I made, like they were things that I wanted to do and like decisions I made and it was work. It made us money that we needed. It made money that allowed me to start my graduate school. Like it's not just like I'm disappearing. It's like I'm getting to spend time with people I like, doing things I like. So, I mean, the trade-offs like that we just kind of talked about, like those things all have a season. And so I think this year is just learning to be more present, to be more content. Like I'm excited to like get to do things like my garden, like because we talked about this on the episode, like a lot of my garden kind of fell to the wayside because I was gone for a good chunk of like the growing months, like stuff like that I don't anticipate being the same issue this year. Like I'm excited to kind of tackle, and to like be home and like be content with the things that like we have here, and not always wondering what's next. And it's really hard. It's really a mental challenge for me. So I think I'm excited to keep trying. And like we're getting out of this, like you just talking about the sports of the kids, like with Ryan, with the extra driving and stuff, like we're getting to a point, like we were just talking about, like he really won't be gone the same amount like in February. So it should be a little bit easier, like be home and like put the phone down and like do some of those things and like figure out how to put this app on my freaking iPad. I don't know, because I don't have all the message stuff turned on my iPad. I like to be able to just like do my coloring app or like check my work email if I really need to, like if we're traveling. But if I can figure out how to get this food app on there, that's what I really need it for. I'm sure I can do it. I just don't know if there was like a profile to like link them, and I have all these recipes in it. So that's why I like using it on my phone because it's right there. But anyway, I will figure it out. It's worth it. So anyway, yeah, I think whatever your word of the year is, we are wishing you well on all of your goals. We would love to hear the words. Like, please share your words with us, your goals. If you don't have a word, we're truly here to cheer you on in whatever stage of life you're in. And if you're in a stage of life where like choosing a word seems like a massive task, trust me, we've been there. I don't think I set goals for the first like 3 years of David's life other than to make sure he survived every day. And I know that's not funny, but like that's the truth. Like that was truly where I was at for like a good chunk of that time.
Yep.
And that's okay. You don't have to pick a word. You don't have to write 23 goals. You can pick one, you can pick none. But I think it helps to kind of give a little bit of focus to what you're doing and a little bit of clarity to what you're thinking about and the stuff that you're putting your energy towards. So I encourage you to think about picking a word or setting a goal for yourself for the year. And just being honest about what that is, what that looks like, like there's no shame in admitting, hey, maybe I am on my phone too much. Like I need to plug it in, or maybe we have bought too many cleaning supplies that we're not using, or maybe I need to stop spending money at Bath and Body Works because I have soap in my closet. Whatever it is, we get it. We totally get it. We are cheering you on. So we want to hear your words, your goals for the year. And we just hope that this first month has gone well for you. And I think this will come out late February, early March. So possibly the second month of the year has gone well for you. We'll definitely have to do a check-in episode like mid-year, see how we're doing, how we feel like things are going. But truly, like we are cheering you on in whatever stage of life you're in, and just keep going. Even if it doesn't feel like you're making progress, just keep going. It'll come. Like Brittany said, like looking back, when you go back and look back at this year or the last year, whatever, you will see that progress, even if it feels like nothing happened. You are making progress. So we are here for you. We support you. And is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, cool. Well, then that's been our word of the year discussion. I swear, every time I say word, I'm like the word is starting to sound funny. But like I'm like gonna screw it up. Anyway, we're excited to share that conversation with you. Even though I sound like an absolute dork right now. We just hope that everything's going well for you these first few months, and we're cheering you on. So we'll talk to you next week.